morning 7 to 9.
Nothing says good morning like a drunken human alarm clock.
We're live from the J. Michael studio.
We all know he loves the Florida Gators, but that's okay.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
I can control the world.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida. The rest of the day, sunny and a temperature of 68 with wind 8 to 12 miles per hour out of the south. Partly cloudy skies tonight, a gentle breeze and quite warm near 62. Partly sunny and 69 tomorrow. 71 and mostly clouds with a gentle breeze Wednesday. Thursday, mostly clouds and a temperature a little colder at 65. This is your Monday's weather sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Your biggest investment is your home. Protect it while also improving its appearance with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. We have sand, mulch, gravel, or lay down decorative stone, all available for pickup and delivery. Discover your dream landscape with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Imagine the moment you proudly pull up to your home that you've worked so hard for, enhanced by quality mulch, decorative stones, and more. Let's make it happen today. Request a quote online at earthworkspc.com or swing by the office at 2005 Industrial Drive. Love the land you live on.
Calling all hospitality pros, ready to be your own boss? Then get the Crew app and get connected to flexible work in the industry you know and love. With Crew, you call the shots, work where, when, and how you want, and get paid right after. Flexibility and fast cash, that's the Crew way. Crew lets you earn quick cash on your terms. All you need to bring is your awesome attitude. Take control of your economic destiny with Crew. That's CROUX.co. Crew, your new side hustle.
Celebrating 60 years in business? That boot store must be doing something right. How about one of the largest Western collections in the area? Carhartt work clothes, affordable prices, and absolutely the best personal service you'll find anywhere. These are just a few reasons that boot store is celebrating 60 years in business. Stop in today. Open Tuesday through Thursday, 9 till 5. Friday and Saturday, 9 till 5:30. Next to Bill Bird Kia 15th Street in Panama City. That boot store, where God is good all the time.
Is your restaurant looking a little tired from the long off-season? Is your office a little offish? Start the new year off right by giving them a fresh start. Fresh Start Cleaning is now accepting new clients. Ask about their complimentary hood cleaning services. Fresh Start Cleaning. Get clean again with Fresh Start. Call 850-771-6917, 771-6917, and ask about their complimentary hood cleaning services.
I'm Bobby Likas with today's Car Clinic Minute. Are you wishing and hoping and dreaming about cars, that is? Teachers used to scold for idling away the hours. Now they give high fives. When I come back, I'll tell you all about it. Daydreaming in class used to get you a trip to the principal's office. Now it could be your ticket to the winner's circle. Daimler Chrysler is sponsoring the Build Your Dream Vehicle competition. Students conceive and design futuristic, environment-friendly automobiles, then present three-dimensional models and marketing plans to judges. Trophies and cash may be the destinations students have in mind, but along the way, they learn about teamwork, finance, technology, and communication. And who knows, their dreams may find the way to your garage. I'm Bobby Likas. Like us, you'll love us.
WPLQ Port St. Joe, WGSX Lynn Haven, powered by Panama City Toyota.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Let's play the game.
Sports Talk Radio will never be the same.
I just don't think that anybody's going to succeed in that system.
It's a bad organization.
It's just a bad organization.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Onion pickles, onions pickles.
Live and local.
Look, it's impressive.
On ESPN.
Northwest Florida.
Keep making noise! Keep making noise!
What's going on, Northwest Florida? You guys are now riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes, along with Coach Brian Haddad and James Fife. now with us on Mondays and Thursdays here on the ones and the twos. James, good to have you with us here on Mondays.
Always happy to be here.
Yeah, killing two birds with one stone. Not only is he going to be running the board here for us and creating beautiful promos, but he will also be playing a little bit of hockey over there at the base, and I can't wait. One of these days, man, the Mondays are running down for me coaching youth basketball, counting those down. Well, I'm not counting them down. I really enjoy them, but we do only have 3 of those, so maybe in about 4 weeks I'll get my I was gonna say Steve Ayers
a couple more weeks.
Oh, y'all only got a couple more weeks.
We do a 10-week schedule,
timing.
and it's like we play for 10 weeks, 3-week tournament, and take off a week, then start all over again.
All right, well, when y'all start all over again, hopefully I'll have some skates by then and can get out there with y'all. I don't have any of my hockey stuff anymore. I don't even think I've got any sticks laying around these days. And do we have anywhere locally that you can buy hockey stuff from?
No. You got closest places I know is Birmingham and Tampa.
Birmingham and Tampa.
Birmingham and Tampa are the 2 closest hockey stores. I don't think there's one in New Orleans anymore.
I feel like when we were growing up here, or when I was growing up here, Sports Authority even had hockey sticks. But we also had a Sports Authority down south.
You would think somewhere in Pensacola would, just with the ice pilots and things, but
yeah, that's a good point.
There's a little shop in Pensacola, a pro shop, but you're not going to get anything more than tape and a stick.
Yeah, tape and a stick. Well, there you go, man.
Emergency services.
You could make a stick out of tape. How do you think that would work out, James? A couple of broken sticks?
You can try it. It's not quite legal, but you can give it a whirl.
It's not quite legal.
Goalies can play with a broken stick. Only player that can.
Only player that can play with a broken stick.
Goalie can play with a broken stick until the stoppage in play. Then they got to grab another stick from the bench. But only player that can use a broken one. Everybody else got a broken stick, drop it immediately.
How closely do y'all adhere to the rules?
Something like that. Our league, we don't really worry about it because mostly the guys are just going to skate over to the bench and go to their car to get a stick because, there's not really a bench there. It's more of a small standing area for the dudes.
There you go. 850-215-6290 is the number to call or text. Thank you for all the comments that we have to this point in the show already. What's going on, Caveman Rick, Jack Patterson, and Barrett, who said he had a great busy sports weekend for the Townsend family. So we'll dive into our local scores real quick, and then we'll get into our best and worst of the sports weekend. I've got a couple of topics over here, and you guys, James and Brian, y'all give me y'all's best and worst as well. In high school softball, North Bay Haven shutting out Mosley here with a score of 11-0. Port St. Joe in likewise fashion taking care of Walton 10-0. Sneeds over North Florida, the score there was 7-3. Wakulla Christian taking down Rutherford 16-4, and it was Niceville over Fort Walton Beach 7-4. In high school baseball, Mosley takes down Niceville 9-3. Arnold over Mariana 10-0. Bay loses to Bozeman 10-0. Port St. Joe over Sneed 6-2. Jay takes down Walton 6-5. Liberty over Freeport 5-2. Cottondale over Destin 9-1. Pensacola Catholic beats South Walton 4-3. Bluntstown over Seminole via a shutout 6-0. Malone takes care of Graceville 24-2. W.S. Neal beats Paxton 4-2, and it was Rocky Bayou over Pensacola Christian. The score there was 14-5. We also had 15 local fellas, high school wrestlers out of Class 1A Region 1. They are headed to state competition. 4 local athletes won their bracket to become regional champions. Out of North Bay Haven, it was Preston Newfield at 113, Bozeman's Derek Williams at 120, Bay's David Drake at 132, and North Bay Haven's David Mercado, who, also not just a beast on the mat, but a beast in the classroom as well. I think that he's a few credits away from his from some sort of degree. I think it's it's not the associate's degree. It's like on his way to a 4-year degree. So just incredibly impressive stuff. You had 11 other athletes punch their ticket to state by placing in the top 4 of their bracket. Rutherford's Dylan Mallett, 106. Freeport's Jacob Justice, also in the 106 weight class. Bay's Leonardo Sanchez in the 120 weight class. North Bay Haven's James Oliver, also at 120. Liberty County's Keaton Ellis at 126. Also Liberty County's Jay Brown at 132. From Liberty County again, Hunter Brown at 138. North Bay Haven's Jack Molnix at 138. Also out of North Bay Haven, Xander Stilgis at 144. South Walton's Gibson Moore at 165. And then at 175 from Bay High, Sean Sandage. State competition is going to begin this Thursday, February 29th, and it will run until Saturday, March 2nd, down there in Kissimmee, Florida. Vernon's Renisha Hogans has signed to play softball at Miles College. That's a Division II program in Alabama. She has been on the Vernon softball team since her 9th grade season, and she's entering her senior year with a batting average of .344, a 5.21 ERA with 16 wins and 195 strikeouts. And the Atlanta Braves today took a loss. That's their second loss of spring training to the Baltimore Orioles. All of them have been one-run games. I believe they beat the Rays 5-4, 6-5. Then they lost to the Red Sox. I think that one was 5-4, and then losing to the Orioles today 2-1. But it is spring training. Anything stood out to you guys from spring training to this point?
What did I hear? The Dodgers hung about $1 million on who was it the other day?
Padres?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
The game where it was like 14-1 after the third inning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Padres had like 3 teams in their dugout.
Yeah, I haven't been able to watch
crazy.
much since, but yeah, that one, nothing really standing out yet. It's just good to have spring ball going.
Yes, sir. Barrett says North Bay Haven against Bozeman in softball tomorrow night.
All right.
JV is at 5, varsity at 7. Game's going to be a great game between 2 of the best softball programs in Bay County. He also says the NFL Combine is this week. What is everyone's favorite drill to watch at the Combine? For me, it would be the mock drafts after the Combine. I've tuned in and watched a couple of the 40-yard dashes. I don't do a lot of watching the NFL Combine. What about for you, Brian? Maybe Rich Eisen running the 40.
I was going to say Rich Eisen because it's going to a good cause. Look, the underwear Olympics are a joke. I don't really care about them. I mean, yeah, it's cool to see what somebody's vertical is or their 40 time is, but it's become worthless. I mean, honestly, the thing that might tell you the most are some of maybe the shuttle drills or things like that the linemen do and things. But it's kind of pointless. It's just for people who are completely dead starved of football, talk. But I'm not a big fan of the Combine.
Yeah, he says his favorite is the wide receiver gauntlet, which I'm watching a little bit of video from that, and there's not a lot of people in the stands. That's the first thing that stands out to me, but why would there be? Yeah. And but this is a pretty cool drill, and it is one of those, the Combine is good, especially for the guys who might be 4th, 5th rounders and work their way. I see what you're looking at over there. The Florida Man games, we talked a little bit about that Friday, but we have Mike over there on the phone line. Mike, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. How's it going this Monday afternoon?
Hey, doing great, fellas. I figured instead of me talking to Siri, trying to text, I'd just call you. So I got something for both of you guys. I think you both will like this.
All right.
So, hey, check it out. We got a young man that's going to be a former Arnold swimmer, right? This is how we tie in. Panama City swimmer, Denver Dangerfield. He did last year as a AAA umpire.
Yeah.
And now he is working the Red Sox spring ball camp on his umpire crew.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's making his way up there.
I knew Denver was umpiring. I haven't seen him in probably about a year and a half or so, but I didn't know he had gotten that far along, so that's really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. A local young guy, he had aspirations, as we know, to do the whole baseball thing, but then that didn't work out for whatever reason, and so he chose that path, and the kid's tearing it up.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, local boy, young guy. Hopefully we'll see him behind the plate in the big leagues one of these years.
Yeah,
You know?
that's a really cool story, and you know your dream doesn't work out the way that you wanted to, but instead of just giving up on the game completely, find another avenue. I think that's very admirable, very commendable. And yeah, I'm right there with you, Mike. I'm looking forward to seeing this guy at whatever the next level is. But one day it'll be Major League Baseball for sure.
Oh, yeah, I keep tabs of all my former swimmer kids, even from 20 years ago. So I'll keep you up to speed on them.
All right. Well, hey, Mike, thank you so much for the call. You got anything else for us today?
No, other than I haven't heard Michigan Eddie in a while, so I'll just get our Go Blue in for us.
There you go.
Go Blue, man. You guys are the champs, and you've got all summer with that. And I know that he had to be excited because had a little bit of hockey, Detroit Red Wings, and I know he's, whatever it is that is close to Michigan, he is ride or die for. But Patrick Kane made his return. I was going to say debut. I'm like, it's not a debut at all, but his return to Chicago, and the fans were absolutely loving that.
Oh, I'm sure. I was going to say Denver, Dangerfield. Maybe you can take Angel Hernandez's spot. That'd be all right, wouldn't it?
I was going to try to work in a quip there.
Okay.
It's just...
Union's not going to let him die, man. The union's going to let him be there until he retires. That's why the union's there.
It's terrifying, though, how you can be so bad, proven to be so bad. You know, it's one thing if you're maybe, a call or two a game, but when it's just consistently bad, we've got umpire scorecards out there, which aren't necessarily brought to you by Major League Baseball, but done by a student, and They show you how bad he is on a consistent basis. How do you stay at the top level of baseball? Because if he was in year 2, 3, or 4, I don't think he'd be calling Major League Baseball games.
Oh, I mean, it's telling when you take your employer to court and say, I'm being discriminated against on the basis of I am Hispanic, and then the court comes back and says, no, you're not being discriminated against. You're just bad at your job.
There you go. We'll dive into a little best and worst of the weekend. Just to make sure that I get them all in here, we'll start with the comments from Ryan Patrick Mulvey, which is the host of the Inside Drive. Make sure that you're tuned into that show from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Fridays. He says his best are Coastal and Auburn winning all 3 baseball games. I think we kind of dove back into that. Auburn did take a loss in one of their games this weekend, but we're 2-1. So Coastal and Auburn winning most of their baseball games. And his worst was his Devils, his New Jersey Devils, getting smoked by the Tampa Bay Lightning yesterday, which was huge for the Lightning. They lost their game last Thursday to the Washington Capitals at the house. They've been playing bad on the but just got a big win over the Islanders on Saturday and then the New Jersey Devils on Sunday. Terry Ross says Tampa Bay Lightning and Oklahoma City Thunder getting a dub. Bart, he says his best, Jake Knapp, first time PGA win on his 9th start as a rookie. For some reason, he flipped on golf, and behold, he watched him set a course record 28 on the front right out of the gate Saturday morning, and he never looked back. They were comparing him to Patrick Swayze of the Double Deuce. He had previously been working as a bouncer in a bar.
Nice.
I don't know what Patrick Swayze Double Deuce reference is.
What?
You'll be
He's not old enough. Brian.
What? Not even not old enough.
Old enough, man.
I don't care.
How have you not seen Roadhouse?
Okay, I think I've seen Roadhouse, but my memory recollection...
You've probably seen the Family Guy spoofing Roadhouse is what it is. Well, it would be a little bit old for you probably.
But you could ask me a movie. I could watch a movie tonight, and then you could ask me questions about that movie tomorrow, and I'm like, man, I just didn't really care enough to have any recall. Like, movies have never, unless it's stupid funny, which I don't even really get into that, it's just not my cup of tea. This is my tea. This is sports.
Dalton the Bouncer, baby. Roadhouse.
So is that what? So that's what it
is. That's what he's talking about. The Double Deuce was the name of the bar.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
You need to go watch Roadhouse tonight.
All right, I'll work on that for you. I'll work on that for you. How about this? How about let me get until next Monday?
There you go.
All right, that way I can probably work that in. Bart's worst was, I even hate to draw attention to it, but Kentucky got on Alabama 117-95 and looked good doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. Kentucky absolutely throttled Alabama. I didn't get to watch very much of that, just the first half, and it. Not even the full first half, and that's all you needed to watch. As far as oh my goodness, Coach Cal's got him. Might be moving in the right direction to get to today to get past the second round or something like that. But we'll see. March Madness is upon us. Barrett says his best first place 6U flag football champions for Ben. First place AU softball championship for USFA for his daughter Autumn, and then MVP of 23 team tournament 10U Abigail. That is his other daughter.
Wow.
So all of them just across the board championships for them this weekend. And then his worst, Mike Evans is still not a buck for life, and we'll see as we inch closer to the season what will happen for Mike Evans. And Chef Ross best finally made it to Tallahassee for a baseball game. The worst, it was a terribly played game, even though the home team won 20-7. So good that he got over there to check out FSU. FSU's got a couple of local fellas, Carson Dorsey and Hudson Rowan, playing some good baseball, pitching some good baseball for him right now. Do you have a best and worst of the weekend, Brian?
I do. I'm gonna save my best here. I'm gonna start with my worst. My worst has a bit of a best in it. The Cam Newton 7-on-7 thing was just it was ridiculous. I mean, you go after a former NFL guy who's out here, bringing publicity to this event and this, that, or the other. You go 7-on-1 on him. Not only do you not take him down, he doesn't even lose his hat.
Yeah.
It's a great hat, by the way.
It was a great hat. I mean, I almost wanted to make it my
highlights.
I almost wanted to make it my best for Cam, just like, warding these guys off, but whatever. But I mean, it was just a bad look. It was terrible. My best of the weekend, though, is exactly what you said. The Florida Man games are the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
St. Augustine this weekend, some of the events. My favorite one is the evading arrest obstacle course, where you actually get out of the back of the cop car. You have to do these hurdles. You break a window, and there's actual deputies chasing you. That was cool. Florida Man Sumo, where you're in like an octagon with a floaty tube around you and a beer in your hand. You can't spill your beer. I mean, it's, you have to steal a catalytic converter, 2 bikes, and copper pipes is a thing, and it's a race.
We're going scrapping, baby.
Dude, this is the coolest thing ever, the mullet competition. It was great. So,
how much would you pay to go see something like that?
Well, a lot of people paid a lot of money, apparently, $45 tickets, and they had like 5,000 people there. So I would pay $50 to see this stuff, because it is all day Florida Man hilarity.
Yeah, when we were looking at it Friday, and I think I read somewhere that the tickets were $55, but still $55, $45. But it looked like they had a lot of fun, man. And it looked like they had some good events, and the judges were actually Dan Clark, Nitro from the American Gladiators, and Ice. So Nitro and Ice were the judges for that competition. Next year, now they did have like a little Florida Ma'am pin-up challenge or whatever, but they next year they're going to try to get some more women, some more female events involved. This is going to get bigger and better each year, man. And then, who knows? Maybe other states are going to try to get involved, and then we can have our own little, forget the Olympics. Let's just look at the United States like crazy, criteria of crazy. Man, what other state? What would be the next state in line to have a competition like this?
Alabama, man.
Well,
it has to be Alabama, man.
Well, Alabama. You already have mullet toss at the Floribama, which is kind of like this, just a smaller. Because mullet toss starts with tossing fish, and then it becomes tossing anything, and I mean anything. Mm-hmm. So it could be that. But I mean, you could have it just about anywhere in the South, and it would probably fit. But Florida Man is just unique.
Florida Man is unique. Alabama might have some issues family-wise. And then, good Lord, California, bro. What about them? Oh, man.
Just Minnesota would be everybody apologizing to each other. Oh, sorry.
There you go, Minnesota in the apology Olympics. We're getting ready for RJ Starks. We're going to talk a little NASCAR. That's my best of the week was the finish there with Daniel Suarez finishing 0.03 of a second in front of Ryan Blaney and 0.07 of a second in front of Kyle Busch. Did you have a best and worst of the weekend, James?
Well, I was going to go with the race at Atlanta because the end of that race, even looking at the photo finish, you can tell who's third, but it's real hard to tell who's 1 and 2, just even looking at a picture that's not moving. And then my worst of the weekend was the Cam Newton situation with the football dads getting all mad and trying to take on not only a former NFL player, but an NFL player that was a beast, man. Do you remember Cam Newton, running over linebackers? Because I do.
Yeah.
And you're like some little dude out there. It's like, no, man, good luck to you. Just don't.
Yeah, and they had pictures surfacing of Cam getting in, not preseason fights, but kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Training camp. Yeah. Training camp, and he'd get in scuffles, and he would just be smiling. It's like, yeah, that's the wrong dude that you want to mess with. I heard the people from TSP kind of put out an apology, but Cam was getting a lot of flack for this and still is.
He shouldn't have.
And he shouldn't be. The dude was standing at a tent kind of minding his own business, and then 3 guys come up and then it turns into 7, and he's just kind of holding them all off at that point. So, and he even got kicked out of the event for that. His own event.
He could have gone after and thrown punches, anything. He was just keeping them off of it.
That is so wild.
He showed a lot of restraint, honestly.
I'm right there with you, Coach Brian. All right, Coach Brian, Haddad, James Fife, David Hayes. We're the Afternoon Underdogs. Coming up next, we're going to take a few left turns talking NASCAR with RJ Starsby.
It's the PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Mondays at 5:20 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
That is a very high-end card and very rare.
Todd talks about coins, trading cards, collectibles, and the amazing stories behind them.
It was the first one that's ever come through my door.
Plus, we'll be taking your calls and questions at 850-215-6290. The PCB Hobby Takeover.
A platform for you to do your hobby.
Mondays at 5:20 on the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida. The rest of the day, sunny and a temperature of 68 with wind 8 to 12 miles per hour out of the south. Partly cloudy skies tonight, a gentle breeze and quite warm near 62. Partly sunny and 69 tomorrow. 71 and mostly clouds with a gentle breeze Wednesday. Thursday, mostly clouds and a temperature a little colder at 65. This is your Monday's weather sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
With over 65 years of combined experience, Instant Replay Sports Cards is happy to help you take your collection to the next level. They carry all the new hobby boxes, signed memorabilia, and supplies. New and vintage cards in Pokemon. They sell and trade cards and are always looking to buy. They're an authorized source for Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, and Leaf cards. Instant Replay Sports Cards is open 7 days a week at 752 West 23rd Street, down from Academy Sports. It can always be reached at InstantReplaySportsCards.com.
Hey there, business owners. Do you feel lost in a sea of numbers, struggling to navigate your day-to-day accounting? At Lighthouse CPAs, they specialize in guiding businesses to make more money and keep more of what you make. From bookkeeping to tax planning, they've got you covered. Plus, with their user-friendly software, managing your finances has never been easier. Spend less time on paperwork and more time growing your business. Call Lighthouse CPAs 850-785-5254.
Hometown Sports Talk from hometown hosts.
People are loving it.
We're live and local. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
Are you kidding me?
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we're back in the doghouse. You guys are listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 right here in Panama City and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. This is going to be my final segment of the afternoon. That sounds so wrong saying my final segment when it's my second segment of the day. But yes, I'm quitting. I've got to go do some. I don't even want to say I've got to. I get to go coach some youth basketball after this. Great opportunity. Lots of fun watching those young men and women score some baskets along along the way. But right now we're going to talk some NASCAR with RJ Starcevic. He is the host and the creator of the NASCAR Report, which you can find there on Instagram. RJ, what is going on? I bet you are pumped up after that race yesterday.
Yeah, man, super pumped up. I mean, we're coming off, we can say, a historic race, or at least a historic finish, might I add. I believe that it's being tabbed as the third closest finish in NASCAR history, so we might as well talk about it.
Yeah, the other two, I think we had 2003, 2011, both of those separated by 0.02 of a second. Yesterday was 0.03 of a second, but it was a lot of fun, man, and there also a record 48 lead changes among 48 drivers. That's the 5th straight race at Atlanta with more than a dozen leaders, and 5 straight races, so the track hasn't been repaved for 5 straight years. When did they repave it? Was it last year or was it this offseason?
At the end of 2021, they were able to totally repave it, and it went from that old classic 1.5 mile Atlanta to still 1.5 mile, but now built as kind of a super speedway in the corners with more banking, allowing for racing, that we saw yesterday, whether it was 100 to go or 2 to go. I mean, they were 3 and 4 wide throughout the race. A lot of people are labeling it already, stamping it down, best race of the year, and we got 34 to go, so we'll see what happens.
I mean, give me a race that ends at the finish line rather than, ends in a caution, and I'm going to be happy with it. But if I see 3 cars at the same time crossing the checkered line, that is, man, it was wild. And I got to be honest with you, RJ, I watched a lot of the race yesterday, but I was watching it from the NASCAR app, and I was watching a lot of the race through, drivers. You know what I mean? The car cameras.
Yeah, and those are interesting to watch, too, because you really get to see, how everybody manages to get through that pack and how crazy it is, right? It's super speedway type racing. It's like Daytona and Talladega, but it's such a shorter track, and it's such a tighter track, too, where handling really matters. So you see people wash up the racetrack, you see them get loose, and you can't do that when you're 3 and 4 wide, or else the field's going to wreck, which we saw a few times yesterday. But the fact that we were able to go, man, those last handful of laps green, especially the last one to finish 3 by 3, I mean, definitely props to all the drivers to make that happen after, we finished under caution last week.
Yeah, we're watching it from the car camera. It seems like you're watching it in fast forward. That's how fast they're moving, and when they make a lane change and go to the bottom, I mean, it's just like, what in the world? How do you react fast enough to do this, which is just a credit to how great of an athlete you have to be a driver in the sport of NASCAR. Is that the best finish that you've ever witnessed, RJ?
I'd say, yeah, personally, in person. I mean, I did get to see, that 2011 finish a while ago, obviously over, 12, 13, 14 years ago at Talladega, where they almost essentially had 4 wide, 2, tandem by tandem at the line. But, as far as finish that I've, witnessed, that I can recollect, I mean, this will definitely be, not only is it historically one of the closest finish in history, but for everybody just watching it on the edge of their seats, for the people that may have not been watching it, for the people that don't even watch NASCAR, that saw it either that night or the next day or today on social media, they are all like, wow, like they're blown away. I was literally just scrolling through tweets, just minutes before coming on here, people still, quote tweeting it and everything, being like, holy cow, like I didn't know NASCAR's like this, so it is definitely fun to see kind of getting that mainstream pull once again right after the Daytona 500.
Oh, yeah, right on the heels of the Daytona 500, and you would like to see that kind of continue. Maybe not the finishes. The finishes are going to be hard to have those types of finishes week in and week out. But as far as the people that get engaged after seeing something like this, maybe they pick themselves a favorite driver and then just continue to tune in when they can. But what do you think Ryan Blaney could have done differently to stay in the lead in those last few laps?
I would say the only thing he could have done differently was probably just try to guess Kyle Busch's move, and maybe move up and prevent him from going through the middle. Because, you when you're going right against Daniel Suarez, when you're 2 by 2, you can really kind of control that. Now, it is controlled by the pushes you have behind you, but you can use that side draft. You could kind of have a 1v1 kind of battle. When you get 3 wide, it's really about the lane, and it's really about the momentum each of them have, because you can't really do anything to draw anybody back too much once you got 2 cars above you. So once Kyle Busch got to his outside, it was really just going to be luck after that and see whose lane kind of had the most momentum. And it makes sense that a lot of the time when cars are 3 wide, the top lane's going to have the most momentum rolling off that top. So Suarez was just able to get it. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it was literally inches and centimeters, separating Blaney and Suarez. So it really was just who had that tiny, tiny ounce more of momentum. But probably would have given him the better shot if he would have just gotten up there, Kyle Busch's move. But maybe nobody expected Kyle Busch to just send it in there 3 wide. I mean, thread the needle in the middle and be able to, to be that close to winning the race.
Yeah, that's one of the cons of watching the car cam, whatever it was that I was watching on NASCAR. I don't know the official name of it. I had the radio playing in the background and had that on, but I was actually on Kyle Busch's camera when watching the finish, and you really didn't. You can't see the peripherals over there, so it's just like you hear the excitement from the radio guys, but you're like, okay, let me go back and watch the replay now to see how all of that panned out. You guys are listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're on the line with 19-year-old NASCAR phenom RJ Starcevic. Make sure you go check out his Instagram, the NASCAR Report. Great follow over there. Outside of the winner, RJ, who ran a great race and had a higher or a better than expected finish?
Well, I would say 2 guys here. As far as the finishing aspect, Austin Cindric, he finished 4th right behind that 3-wide finish, and he was able to lead a good amount of laps and really be up front all day. He is a former Daytona 500 winner. Same thing with Ricky Stenhouse, who finished 6th. Same thing with Michael McDowell, who finished 8th. But for him to be up there and be that competitive, I think was good to see, and a great sign for them. They've started off the year pretty well, but somebody who didn't finish well, really was robbed of a great finish, was Todd Gilliland. He led the most laps yesterday, did really well. He led laps at Daytona as well. I believe he's right up top there in the most laps led this season in the Cup Series, I believe, if not the first. And so a great race for him in Front Row Motorsports. So really excited. Two young Ford guys right there, 2 young Ford prospects, Todd Gilliland and Austin Cindric, really put their names out there yesterday.
Well, which manufacturer had the best day on the track at Atlanta?
Man, I mean, Chevrolet won the race, and, they're going to get definitely the most recognition for that. But I would say overall, Ford really showed that they were, a big powerhouse yesterday, right? Michael McDowell won Stage 1, Austin Cindric won Stage 2, and Ryan Blaney was literally just a hair away from winning the race. And if there was any manufacturer that was grouped up together, working together yesterday, it was Ford. At the beginning of the race, the middle of the race, and even up towards the end of the race, where they did just get beat out by Chevy. But I would say overall, I feel like Ford had the best race.
Who ended up having a disappointing day in Atlanta? Someone who was expected to finish high. I mean, even Denny Hamlin, who was leading some laps there at the end and then finishing in 24th place. But RJ, to you, who had a disappointing race in Atlanta?
I would say somebody like Brad Keselowski. I think that's a race Atlanta he always circles, whether it was, the old configuration or the new configuration. He was running up front for a good amount of the race and then just got caught up in that late incident. Him, Kyle Larson, Chase Briscoe, all taken out in that wreck. All were having really good days. So it was a wreck that started up at the front, so it took out, a lot of our top contenders. So I'd say Brad Keselowski probably had the most disappointing day, especially, coming off Daytona where he got turned from second place and then running top 5 at Atlanta and getting turned again. You can't really, there's not much he could have done in either of those situations, unfortunately. So just bad luck. But, you kind of flip the table to go to a track where you can kind of be in more control of your own destiny at Las Vegas.
And then we want to go over to Joey Logano. Explain to me the penalty that he got for his glove and how that affected his Sunday.
Yeah, so a really funny thing to start the Sunday off. It came out right at the beginning of the day that he'd be sent to the rear because of a glove infraction. Everyone's like, what the heck? Like, we've never seen that before. But if something you have seen before, during qualifying runs at the super speedways, a lot of the drivers like to stick their hands just out of that window net to try and block some of the air. Now, I'd never even thought of this, but all the gloves have to be a certain specification for just, safety reasons, but also for that reason as well. And so he kind of had a webbing in between two of his fingers that they put there. So when he stuck his hand out the window, they'd be blocking more air in a different way. So it's it's crazy how many little things. I mean, we talked about the inspection process all year last year with all those big penalties coming out and how precise they are, right, to changing these cars. And now how about changing your gloves, and getting docked for that. So it was deemed that he did the same thing for Atlanta, and they caught it. And they made him change it and sent him to the rear. So, they're having believe it or not, on the super speedways, the gloves can be labeled as somewhat of a competitive advantage.
Maybe the NFL needs to take a look at it.
Smart, to be honest. I got to say, it's smart. But I guess NASCAR definitely laid down the law because they have safety regulations as well for the gloves. But, they tried.
Hey, they tried and it did not work. So we'll move on, though, next week. Give me a recap of what went down in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, the Xfinity Series, they kind of run a different package. And so at Atlanta, you're not seeing the 3 and 4 wide that you would see in the Cup Series. Now, a lot of drivers have advocated for that, but we haven't really gotten it. So we kind of just see double, single file in the Xfinity Series. But either way, it's a super speedway, and guess what? Who won? Austin Hill. He was able to find his way to the front in the last few laps where everybody else was running out of fuel. It was just a 2-to-go restart. Jesse Love was leading. He ran out of gas. The other cars ran out of gas. I think like 5 to 10 cars on that last lap ran out of gas. But Austin Hill had enough to get himself to the finish, and he won the race. Shout out to Shane Van Gisbergen as well, who ended up with a 3rd-place finish. So he's got, I think, 2 top 10s so far this season, or 2 top 15s. He got his 12th place finish at Daytona and now a 3rd place finish at Atlanta. So he's starting his NASCAR journey on a high note. But yeah, again, Austin Hill just getting another super speedway victory, this time at Atlanta.
All right, and next week we are on to Vegas. Give us a little track facts about Vegas. What do you like about Las Vegas?
What I like about Las Vegas is, number one, the weather. We're looking good for this weekend. Got a nice little mid-70s temps, going to be clear skies, and it's also an aging racetrack. And when we have an aging racetrack, that means better racing. You can race top to bottom. Handling's going to be an issue. Tire wear is going to be a factor. And all 3 series really race well here at Vegas. So you got trucks and Xfinity and Cup. All 3 of them tend to really race well in their own ways at Las Vegas, and so it should be a fun weekend of racing. We got a Friday night race for the trucks, Saturday race for Xfinity, and then the big Cup race on Sunday on Fox.
All right, give me your top 3 for Xfinity and the Cup Series.
Yeah, so for Xfinity, I'm going to look over at somebody like, let's say Austin Hill. Let's carry the momentum here. He's won the first 2 races. How crazy would it be for him to go in there and win 3 straight? I'd also look at A.J. Allmendinger. He's now back in the Xfinity Series full-time. I could see him having a very strong weekend at Las Vegas. He's been a lot better at those mile-and-a-halfs, especially in the Xfinity cars. And then I'm looking at somebody, let's see what Eric Almirola's got. Eric Almirola spent a lot of years for Stewart Haas Racing in the 10 car. People noted whether it was either the equipment or him. We didn't know, but now we're going to find out. He's in the number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota for the first time this weekend, and so I'm interested to see what he brings out as well. And then we got the Cup Series at Las Vegas, and every year when we open up the season with the Cup Series at Las Vegas, I feel like it's Hendrick Motorsports and Chevy's wheelhouse. So my first pick would be Kyle Larson, a guy who's won at Vegas before, and I think he could definitely get the job done this weekend. I'll go with somebody else, like, let's go William Byron, very strong at Atlanta as well. Obviously won the Daytona 500. I think he'll be fast. And then we'll go with the hometown guy, Kyle Busch. I think they've started out the season well also, and I think he can roll into Las Vegas, his hometown, and KFB can get the job done.
All right, man. Give me who's a wild card for this weekend. We're doing something on the Inside Drive where we each have our drivers that we stick with throughout the year, but then we get to pick a secondary guy. So I've got Denny Hamlin. Jay's got Chase Elliott. We're going to see if Ryan sticks with Joey Logano or maybe changes that up since it's a new thing. But who's a wild card for this weekend at Las Vegas in the Cup Series?
Yeah, I like that. I'd say a wild card. I'd go somebody like Josh Berry. I'm really interested to see what he's made of He had good races in the Hendrick cars when he was filling in for Bowman and Elliott, respectively, last year. Now he's with Stewart-Haas Racing. He's had a decent start to the year, maybe not finish-wise, but as far as speed and aggressiveness, I've seen Josh Berry up at the front a lot. And so I think somebody like a wild card, he's won at Las Vegas as well before in the Xfinity Series, really, when he was first coming on the scene. So I could see him being a guy that maybe I could look to get a surprise top 10 this weekend.
All right, RJ. Well, thank you so much for giving us some of your time, and we look forward to chatting with you next Monday after the race.
Anytime. Sounds good. Looking forward to talking to y'all next week. Take care.
All right. That is RJ Starcevic. He's the host and the creator of the NASCAR Report. You can go follow him over there on Instagram. Brings great content. And he's actually going to be at Talladega again this year. He was at Daytona getting some coverage last week. And it's always a great time to catch up on NASCAR with RJ Starcevic. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. It's Brian's show from here on out. Y'all just remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I.
ESPN Northwest Florida is taking it to the home. Your home for the most live college basketball in the Gulf Coast. The ACC, SEC, and the biggest games in the country. Plus the official station of March Madness.
The Panhandle's destination for live play-by-play.
Hear every slam dunk in ultra-high fidelity right here.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida. The rest of the day, sunny and a temperature of 68 with wind 8 to 12 miles per hour out of the south. Partly cloudy skies tonight, a gentle breeze and quite warm near 62. Partly sunny and 69 tomorrow. 71 and mostly clouds with a gentle breeze Wednesday. Thursday, mostly clouds and a temperature a little colder at 65. This is your Monday's weather sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Mid-South Lumber, where they treat you like family. Locally owned and serving the residents of Bay County for over 45 years. See Mid-South Lumber for all of your DIY projects, including windows, doors, siding, lumber, and millwork. Are you building a new home? Bring your contractor in to Mid-South Lumber and meet with a member of their sales team to discuss your framing, siding, windows, and doors. Mid-South Lumber, the biggest little lumber yard in Panama City. 717 West 11th Street.
Hey folks, Chris Kramer with Bill Kramer GM. And the best place to listen to the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey is inside a brand new vehicle from Bill Kramer GM. And I want you to know we've got 10 times the amount of inventory on the ground as we did this time last year, and darn near all of them are discounted. So shop us online at BillKramerGM.com or visit us the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd. We'll make it easy and take great care of you.
He likes to lift weights in a parking lot and eat Weight Gainer 3000.
I'm really starting to feel out nasty.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. David has left the building, leaving the substitutes in control here. But Brian Haddad sitting in for David on the Afternoon Underdogs here on a Monday afternoon, joined by Big Bad James behind the board, spinning the tunes for us. And it's become a Monday staple for us, something I certainly look forward to. We have got on the line with us a writer for the RebelWalk.com, Steve Barnes. Steve, how we doing on this fine Monday afternoon?
I'm hearing from a lot of Alabama fans. I didn't realize today is a holiday for them. It's 2/26.
It is.
And I didn't figure it out. Then finally it's like, oh, and Tua fired that pass to Devontae to win the national championship. It was 2nd and 26.
It was a lot more fun to celebrate that holiday before Georgia started winning national championships. But yes.
Hey, you take what you can get, man.
That's right. 2/26. Certainly a very, very special day for Alabama fans indeed. Well, let's start off with some Ole Miss talk, something that's, near and dear to my heart as a Mississippi State graduate. But I did want to talk about it. Ole Miss basketball, definitely, seen, a resurgence here. with Coach coming in. And Ole Miss has had, historically, some good spells of basketball, but kind of like Mississippi State, it's hard to string it together long term. What's your take on the Ole Miss basketball team this year and maybe the prospects going forward?
Well, right now they've lost 6 of the last 7.
Yeah.
So I mean, man, that's tough to come back from. But you play Alabama, I think on Saturday, and if you win that one, you've got 20 wins.
Yeah.
And if you've got 20 wins, you've got a chance to get in the tournament. If not, you go in the NIT.
Yeah. Didn't Ole Miss start the year? Didn't they start the year undefeated through the pre-conference schedule?
They were 18-2 for a while.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, people started figuring out how to defend the tower trio, the 7-foot guys.
Yeah.
And boom! I mean, and they're not hitting free throws. In fact, the best thing I can say about Ole Miss basketball right now for the men's side is Chris Beard. He has a show. If you can go on YouTube, see the videos. He calls it a fireside chat.
Okay.
Where he brings like a little small grill out, and he has a guest. He's had Kiffin on. He had Marshall Henderson on. I mean, it's really just entertaining.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Now the women, hold on. They're 19-7. They've won 3 in a row. I like their prospects a lot better than the men.
Yeah.
And Coach Joe, they were so lucky to keep her from going to Georgia last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I like the women's prospects better than the men's.
Yeah, I was thinking back to the the Ansu Cisse days, and there've been spells there. And look, I'm a Mississippi State guy, so I have to admit I did buy a Valparaiso hat after the first round exit.
Yeah, Bryce Drew made that coast to coast run.
He ensured he would never have to pay for a drink in Starkville, Mississippi for the rest of his life after that one. But no, it is actually fun to see, Mississippi State playing better this year. Ole Miss definitely playing better, even with the rough spell of late. That's just conference basketball.
They're filling up the pavilion now.
That's right.
And, I mean, when Kiffin was on the fireside chat, Beard's talking about, you look at the crowd you're getting in football. And he's pointing down to the student section. He goes, that thing's filled. That thing helps us.
Yeah.
He goes, but I went to your basketball game, and I got chill bumps.
Yeah. Well, let's stay with basketball for a second here. Obviously Kentucky put the beat down on Alabama over the weekend. They went into Auburn, won in a very tough place, but then Kentucky can inexplicably lose games that they seem like they have no business losing. Who do you like maybe from the SEC stepping out when we get into tournament time, or maybe even nationally? Who's on your radar as a team to watch when we get to March Madness?
Nationally, I mean, I think Houston's playing the best basketball in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, they just got elevated to number 1. And, I mean, those guys, I think that team could beat Alabama. Where they're playing. They're a little more unselfish.
Interesting.
I just like the way they play. UConn's also somebody else to look out for. I think they're ranked 3rd this week.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
they just came off the tough loss to Creighton, yeah.
But they're both going to be, probably number 1 seeds.
Yeah.
And so they'll, I haven't done the bracket for entertainment purposes only, by the way.
Sure, absolutely.
I haven't done that in years, but every year we would have a prize for the upset pick. And I would always pick a 12 seed over 5.
Absolutely.
And it's like, this 12 seed, they've got 5 kids who have played together for 4 years. These guys are one and done.
Yep.
So give me a 12.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it too. Yeah, absolutely.
And I even got Davidson one year when Steph Curry was there.
Nice.
I got him in the first round, but then I had him losing in the second round. He went on that run and totally wrecked my bracket.
There was one year, I can't remember when, I think it was back in the Chris Corciani and Tom Gugliotta days, but I had NC State winning the tournament, and they went out in the first round, and I said, I'm done with brackets. So.
I don't know how many people, when Mercer beat Duke a few years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we had like 30 people who had Duke going all the way.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
And they're like, they just walk in and just rip it up. It's like, we're done. We're not doing this ever again.
All right, well, let's stick with basketball somewhat, although it's a problem in football as well. Look, about, I don't know, 2 months ago, I went on a little tirade on this, and I want your take on it. Obviously, storming the court and storming the field in football have been around forever. I mean, it's not a new thing, but the more it happens, the more likely injuries occur, not to just players, which we saw this weekend with Kyle Filipowski, but certainly to the let's just say, possibly liquid-enhanced fans coming out onto the court or onto the field. It's a wonder someone hasn't gotten seriously injured so far. What are your thoughts about this, and what do you think the NCAA is going to do going forward?
Well, I mean, it's been a problem. When I was a freshman at Pensacola Junior College, my best friend and I, we went up to Legion Field for the Iron Bowl. This was Bo Over the Top.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, we all stormed the field. I had a broken collarbone at the time.
Yeah.
And this Alabama guy, he saw the collar on me, and he walked up and just punched me in the shoulder. And I'm just like, okay, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
And I remember Stanford had a big basketball win, and Tiger Woods ran about 10 feet on the floor. Then he stopped and walked off. He's like, wait a second. I'm going to get trampled here, and I'm going to get hurt, and I'm going to lose money. But I don't think you can outlaw it because, I mean, that's emotion.
Yeah.
I think what you're going to end up doing, though, is I like the idea somebody had last year. Instead of just saying, okay, we're going to fine you $50,000, they're going to say, we're going to take a home game from you next year.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the way they stop it.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. You're right. The fine is pointless because, I mean, it's like anything else. It gets passed along. But, look, I've been in cases where we went onto the field, and it's exactly what you said about Tiger. The instant I got out there, it was like, this is mass chaos. Now, with a football field, I know you've got more people potentially coming on the field, but there's space where you can get away. Basketball court, that's a lot of people jamming into a very, very small space. And the other thing that needs to be considered, 30 years ago when I'm doing this, we're more aware of our surroundings because you know why? We didn't have a cell phone out there recording ourselves, which is what I think a lot of these people, the reason they're going on the court, they're looking for content to post to their Facebook or to their TikTok or whatever like that. So they're running out there looking at their face in the selfie cam like that. They're going to get run over, knocked upside the head, everything. It's a wonder we haven't had a more significant injury up to this point.
Well, I remember, this was 2002, I guess.
Yeah.
Marshall had come to Troy, and Troy finally beat him. That was the 1AA nemesis. Just couldn't get past Marshall.
Right.
And they beat him pretty good. And a buddy of mine, Troy Johnson, who was working for the Columbus newspaper, he had a little kid shadowing him, like a 10-year-old kid who wanted to be a sports writer. So he got to go in and sit there with him. Mm-hmm. And Troy said, I got to go get this kid or get this player. Can you watch the kid for a minute? And I said, sure. And the game ends, and the student section just poured on, and I grabbed him by the hand, and I walked him back to the brick wall and said, we're not moving. We're not moving. They won't see you.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Troy is the student section is in the south end zone. The visitors' locker room's in the north end zone.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no, when they storm the field, the other team's gone.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that. So, I like that, but, when they won the Sun Belt 2 years ago, beat App State pretty bad. The App State guys are gone, and the Troy players ran over to the student section and were helping them come over the wall.
Yeah.
Saying, storm the field, storm the field. And I remember Barry McKnight was doing radio, and him saying, well, this is just a fine we're going to have to pay.
Yeah, it's hard to get the visual out of my mind of, I can't remember which game it was, but it was either Georgia or Auburn. I can't remember, but, all the co-eds trying to jump over the hedges and getting stuck in them. It was just... I
remember Georgia beat Auburn once at Jordan Hare, and their their fans started to come on the field, and Auburn turned on the sprinkler system.
Yeah. Good for them. Maybe that's what it'll take. I don't know. That certainly won't keep some people out, but, it's what it is. Some people probably need that sprinkler. Might be the first shower they've had in a while. Let's pivot over to baseball here. Ole Miss baseball, obviously 2 years ago, national champion. Last year, joined my Bulldogs in making sure the whole state of Mississippi missed out on the SEC tourney. What's kind of the prospects here in the very, very early part of the season for Ole Miss baseball? And, maybe talk about Coach Bianco. Look, I mean, Lamonis at Mississippi State, as much as I love him for bringing us a national championship, after 2 years of missing the conference tourney, I might put a moving sign in his yard if I had the opportunity. Could Bianco, if he doesn't have a better season this year, be on the hot seat as well?
I think so, but I think that's more of a product of the athletic director these days.
Yeah.
You almost have to have a coach on the hot seat.
That's true.
And, I mean, it can't be Kiffin. He just won 11 games.
Right.
It can't be Beard. He just got there. It can't be Coach Yo. She took the women's basketball team to the Sweet 16.
Right.
Softball's coach just got there. The tennis team's been ranked number 1. Even the rifle team has been ranked number 1. The only guy you could probably look at is Bianco.
Yeah.
And they started 2-4.
Yeah.
And I told a couple people this, and they thought, nah, that's a bad excuse. I think the reason they started 2-4 was they started with a 4-game set in Hawaii.
Yeah.
They won the first 2, lost the second 2. Now, while they were there, they had luau's. Sure. I mean, they went to the USS Arizona. They went to the Dole Pineapple place. I mean, they had other things besides baseball.
Sure.
But when they lost that game on Saturday, I don't think they flew out of Honolulu until 10 o'clock Central Time that night.
Yeah.
Now, you've got 4 hours to go to Los Angeles to change planes. And they had a layover.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get there till 2 o'clock, which is, midnight Pacific time. I'm not sure how many, midnight flights there are from L.A. to Memphis. So they probably had to wait around a little while. Yeah. Then they flew the 5 hours to Memphis. Now you're done. You got to go through baggage claim, get all your stuff, get all the equipment, load a bus.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to drive an hour back to Oxford. They might not have gotten back to Oxford until, lunchtime.
Yeah.
On Monday. And that they had to give those kids a day off.
Yeah.
But, all right, so the next day, I'm sure they had a light workout. And then on Wednesday, they played Arkansas State. And I know you're not on Facebook, but you can go to mine. It's like, yeah, I'm calling it right now. They're losing to Arkansas State.
Yeah.
These guys are just tired. They lost to Arkansas State. Then Friday, they lost the first game of a 3-game set to High Point. Yes, High Point. And I thought Bianco could be in trouble.
Yeah. Well, what
happened on Saturday and Sunday, they outscored them 37-4.
Yeah.
And yesterday scored 11 in the first inning. And I thought, I think they might got their legs back.
Yeah. No, that's good. And look, all I can tell you is, it's you bring a national championship home, you think that buys you a very long time. Maybe not so much. Like I said, the Lamonis thing, it's the first year, okay, we'll give you that. All right. But 2 years in a row, missing the conference tourney, I mean, that's bad. Only 2 teams don't make it to the conference tourney, and you're one of them. So, but
also,
we're going to.
Ole Miss lost a lot to the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Peyton Chotinier went to TCU. T.J. McCants went to Alabama. Yeah. And I think with yesterday's lineup, I was just going through it.
Yeah. Steve,
and I think 9 were transfers.
Yep. We got to get to a break here. We're going to hold Steve over. We got 20 more minutes with Steve Barnes. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Radio.
Take ESPN Northwest Florida with you everywhere you go.
Anytime, anyplace, anywhere.
The sports talk and live play-by-play doesn't have to end when you get out of the car. The ESPN Northwest Florida app streams your favorite sports talk hosts and the biggest games in ultra-high fidelity.
This is of utmost importance in travel.
Take the sports talk monster with you anywhere you go. Available for Android and iPhone.
Use it anywhere or any place.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida. The The rest of the day, sunny and a temperature of 68 with wind 8 to 12 miles per hour out of the south. Partly cloudy skies tonight, a gentle breeze and quite warm near 62. Partly sunny and 69 tomorrow. 71 and mostly clouds with a gentle breeze Wednesday. Thursday, mostly clouds and a temperature a little colder at 65. This is your Monday's weather sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
With over 65 years of combined experience, Instant Replay Sports Cards is happy to help you take your collection to the next level. They carry all the new hobby boxes, signed memorabilia, and supplies. New and vintage cards and Pokemon. They sell and trade cards and are always looking to buy. They're an authorized source for Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, and Leaf cards. Instant Replay Sports Cards is open 7 days a week at 752 West 23rd Street, down from Academy Sports. It can always be reached at InstantReplaySportsCards.com.
WVLQ Port St. Joe, WGSX Lynn Haven, powered by Panama City Toyota.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
There's nothing more satisfying than helping you find the perfect vehicle. And this month, find something you love at just 2.99% APR on our most popular models. Plus 90 days until you make your first payment. Like the 2024 Camry with stylish good looks and impressive performance. Or the 2024 Corolla, built for comfort and style with top-notch tech. Panama City Toyota. For over 30 years, where relationships are born.
Offer expires March 4th. For details, visit PanamaCityToyota.com.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
This 53-man roster is stupid.
Where it's halftime all the time.
Raise the rosters, you cheapskate owners, and get that done now.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
$5 a pop. It's cheaper than Uber. You can send that to my Venmo.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
And Brian Haddad back at you, covering for David today on the Afternoon Underdogs. I hadn't heard that showrunner there in a while. I forgot about my little 53-man rant on the owners. I have to rekindle that one as we get close to the NFL season starting back up. But we are joined for another segment here by Steve Barnes, writer for the RebelWalk.com. Always great pieces to read there at the RebelWalk.com. Make sure and check out Steve and follow him. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to have to copy and paste this segment and send it to some friends of mine in Chicago and Connecticut, because I love the forecast where she said, and it's going to be cooler tomorrow, about 65.
Yeah, it's full-on winter at 65, you know. Oh, I love it. All right, let's pivot over to football, Steve, you know, close to my heart. So let's talk about this. Ole Miss football, obviously a lot of, great feelings about the program. 11 wins this past year, coming off of 10 before that. Coach Kiffin got them rolling. A lot of players coming back. Obviously, Judkins moving on, but you've got cover there. A lot of people have Ole Miss, up in the early polls inside the top 10. Do you think that's too high, or is that, about where the expectation should be for this program?
I think that it's too soon to tell, because you got the transfers coming in from all over the place.
Sure.
How do you get them to gel together? Yeah. They might be great players, but it could be like, an all-pro team in the Pro Bowl. It's like, okay, well, I didn't like this guy, so I'm not going to, if I'm playing safety and he's a corner, I'm not going to go over cover over the top so he doesn't get beat deep.
Right.
But that's something that, Kiffin has done that well. He's got these kids gel, and he's not afraid to say, you might need to go somewhere else. Judkins went to Ohio State. Michael Trigg was going to be one of the best tight ends in the country. Yeah. And his roommate's Jackson Dart, because they both transferred from Southern California. And even Dart kind of said, I think you might need to go somewhere else. You're just not good for the team. Of course, he knew he had Caden Prieskorn coming in from Memphis, and all he did was become the offensive MVP in the Peach Bowl. And Kiffin made a joke about that in the post-game presser. Said, well, he told me he was going to come back for another year, but I had to make sure he got 10 catches in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
So it's just how they gel. That's what it's going to be. But the thing is, they've got 4 out-of-conference games to start with.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You've kind of got a double-edged sword there. I think, I've seen these teams forever. And look, we're dealing with a 12-man or a 12-team tournament now instead of 4. So obviously one loss isn't the critical death of you like it would have been in years past, but you start with 4 non-conference games that all should be very winnable. You do go on the road to Wake Forest, who's had some moments, but you have 4 very winnable games. Now that's good because we've seen the teams that come in with all the preseason hype. They lose a game early and the team just falls apart. But that being said, having those 4 up front means you have 8 conference games in a row like you did 2 years ago. So to me, what is the key game here? Is it the trip to LSU that determines really where Ole Miss is going to go? That'll be game number 7, I guess, because that really starts the rough stretch, if you will.
Well, somehow Ole Miss misses Alabama this year.
Yeah.
And this is the year you'd want Alabama.
Yeah.
But you got Georgia coming into Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, love Ole Miss to death. I think they're going to have 2 conference losses. I think they'll lose to Georgia at home.
Yeah.
And I think they'll lose another one. I think it could be at LSU.
Yeah.
And that puts Georgia and Texas in Atlanta. So Ole Miss would be holding on, to a thread. Can we be the 3rd team that gets in to the tournament? So I just don't like the 8 straight SEC games.
Yeah. No, I understand. And the LSU game, there'll be back-to-back road trips. You're going to Columbia, South Carolina the week before, and then you're going west to Baton Rouge. Yeah, that's a tough stretch, and that's before the week off. You get the week off after LSU. So, yeah, that's going to be a tough trip for sure.
Speaking of hot seats, Shane Beamer at South Carolina, he better pull something out this year.
Yeah. No, he definitely needs to do so. But that's one guy who I thought his first 2 years did more with less than anybody I saw in the country. So,
but the thing is, he's just not getting a lot there.
That's it. That's the hard part. And the ones he develops, he then loses. They had a lot of guys transfer out, and I don't think it was. Yeah, go ahead.
It's the same with Sam Pittman.
That's right.
At Arkansas, I mean, he just lost K.J. Jefferson.
Yeah.
I mean, what's he going to do now?
Yeah, it's true. Because, the backup left like last year.
Yeah.
What was it, Hornsby or whatever his name was, because he wasn't getting any playing time. So, yeah, it's... So,
I mean, those 2 are going to be the ones that I have to look out for this year. But for Ole Miss, it's going to be how can you bring the team together? And like I said, he was on that Chris Beard show, and he said, I get 15 spring practices.
Yeah.
Got to get them together. And he said they're all doing workouts now together. So maybe they're building some kind of, Jackson Dart came in.
Yeah.
And they accepted him immediately after Corral left.
Sure.
So hopefully they can do the same thing with these edge rushers, the 2 offensive linemen from Washington.
Right.
The wide receiver from South Carolina, Juice, who might be the second most famous Juice in Oxford after Kiffin's dog.
Absolutely. Well, it's
going to be chemistry.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. General football questions here. What coaching storylines are you the most interested in? I mean, obviously the easy answer is DeBoer at Alabama, but we've got year 2 of Dion out in Colorado, and obviously that whole storm that was going on out there. Sharon Moore has flown under the radar because the Alabama talk has kind of sucked up all the oxygen in the room, but taking over the defending national champions after he coached darn near half of their games this year while Harbaugh was out suspended. What kind of coaching storyline are you most interested in going into the next season?
There's 2 of them. One of them's got to be DeBoer.
Yeah.
Just because who he's replacing.
Yeah.
And let's face it, I mean, Alabama fans, they all love to fish, but they're not very patient. And if Alabama happens to, lose 4 games, it's going to be like Norvell's first year at Florida State.
Yeah.
They're going to be calling for it.
Yeah.
But the other one, this is really off the radar. I want to see what Deshaun Foster can do at UCLA just to fill up Chip Kelly. Yeah. It's like you left here because you just didn't want to deal with NIL. And you didn't want to deal with the portal. You just wanted to coach football.
Yeah.
And so you took a coordinator's job and left, a really good head coaching job. Foster is beloved at UCLA. And he's going to get kids to come in there, and he's going to get them to play hard. He was a great coordinator So he's just got to, he's got to get some people under him and lead them. But, I mean, I think UCLA could be pretty good this year.
Yeah. I was actually out there at the game in 2000, it was 2000, in the Rose Bowl, where he just crushed Alabama. I made that trip. Alabama had all these aspirations for national championship, preseason number 3, went out to UCLA the opening game of the season, and UCLA trounced them. But the other thing that's interesting about that, you're right, he's beloved out there, and he's a great coach. He just brought in Eric Bieniemy, to be his offensive coordinator. I mean, look, Bieniemy, has had trouble getting a head job, and there are a couple reasons for that. But, as a coordinator, obviously had a ton of success under Andy Reid and did it for a very long time. Mixed results under Rivera at Washington, but he actually had Sam Howell throwing the ball at a very good completion percentage that goes under the radar. I think you're right. UCLA could be a good team this year.
When I saw Bieniemy get hired as the coordinator, I thought, okay, after this year, Deion's kids leave.
Mm-hmm.
Does he want to stay in Colorado, or does he want to try to follow them somehow?
Right.
I think he's going to leave. Bieniemy happened to go to school at Colorado.
Yes, he did.
So that could just be, let me go ahead and take this one. I'll, we'll win a lot of games, and then I could be the leading candidate to go home.
Yeah.
Like Foster did.
Yeah. No, 100%. All right, I need to know what you know about this. I have yet to be able to read the case ruling, which is always interesting. But the federal judge in Tennessee on Friday granted the injunction. It's just an early injunction, but it prohibits the NCAA from actually enforcing its own rules against pay-for-play and recruiting. Effective immediately, name, image, likeness collectives can negotiate deals with recruits without fear of NCAA sanctions. What do you know about this case in and of itself, at least the early talk about it, and what does this maybe mean long-term in terms of the NCAA's effectiveness or lack thereof in trying to deal with NIL?
Well, I think, first off, it means we got a lot of more court dates coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a temporary injunction, so, it can be appealed. It will be. They'll have arguments about that. They'll have arguments about their arguments. But, I mean, this is something Kiffin predicted.
Yeah.
He said, NIL is great for these kids, but it's going to turn into pay-for-play.
Right.
And, I've actually heard stories. I can't,
sure,
positively say they're true, but hearing high school kids saying, yeah, I'll come visit your school for $5,000.
Yeah.
And, I think that's a bad thing, but I think it's, the reality we live in. And Kiffin's the first one that says, hey, I'm glad these kids are getting the money and, the portal and all that stuff. We have the Grove Collective. I've really benefited from the portal, but they've got to be regulated. And when the SEC and the Big Ten commissioners got together, I think that was a shot over the bow to the NCAA.
Yeah.
That if you do not get some kind of order, guess what's going to happen? We're going to get the Big 12, we're going to get the ACC, and we're going to get Notre Dame. And we're just going to tell you, hey, bye. We're going to get a commissioner. We're going to regulate ourselves because you're doing such a bad job of it. And if they want to fight it, all you have to do is say, all right, we'll take all of our programs out of the NCAA.
Yeah.
And NCAA could not have that. So I think what they would do is just go tell them, we'll leave you men's and women's basketball, so you keep March Madness. You keep Omaha for men's baseball. You keep Oklahoma City for softball. You keep the FCS. You keep the D2, D3. You keep all that. But you're out of the FBS business as of now. If not, we'll just take everybody. Yeah. And you'll turn into the NAIA. I think this is the first shot in that war.
We've got the case with Dartmouth trying to unionize. There have been more. How long do you think it is, Steve, before these these players are classified as athletes, or as employees, and quite frankly, don't have to be students at the university at all.
Well, they're always going to have to be students, but I saw a thing, Dartmouth, the kids who work on campus in various jobs, they're unionized.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So it's like, okay, you can be, you can't be.
Yeah.
But, it's going to take a while. I mean, it was like 15 years ago when I read the story. UCLA had a basketball player, Ed O'Bannon.
Ed O'Bannon, yeah.
And he is selling cars after his pro career. He's selling cars in L.A.
Yeah.
And one of his buddies comes up and says, yeah, I got my son a college basketball video game last night. You're in it.
Yeah.
He goes, what do you mean? I'm in it. And he goes, come to the house. We'll show you.
Yep.
And the kid brings it up, and it's number 31 in baby blue, and it looks just like him. And the kid, who was maybe 12 years old, looked over and said, you aren't getting a dime out of this, are you?
Yep.
And he's like, no, I'm not. And that is the origin of name, image, likeness. It took, 10 years?
Yeah, at least 8, but yeah, I think you're right. And had to go all the way up.
Yep. So it's going to be like the UT thing with NCAA. It's going to get appealed and appealed and appealed. And somebody said today on TV, I think the NCAA is going to have to take it to Congress. This Congress has passed 20 bills in 2 years. You're way down the list, man.
Yeah.
You'll be after the election, so we don't even know who's going to be in Congress.
That's right.
So, I mean, that's not the way to go. I think the NCAA needs, I hate to use the fishing analogy again, but they need to cut bait.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Well, happier talk. Let's look at the football season coming up. Again, obviously taking 12. Let me ask you this. We kind of alluded to it earlier where you were looking at that third spot. They're going to take the 5+7. Do you think that they are actively hoping, planning, will do? I guess my question is this. The SEC and the Big Ten could potentially get 4 or 5 teams in if you're talking about the top 12 ranked teams at the end of the year. Do you think that the committee will be cognizant of that and will actively do everything they can to make sure that neither of those conferences get more than 3?
Yes. Because I think you're going to have to make sure the Big 12 champ's in there.
That's right.
You have to make sure the ACC champ's in there.
Right.
You got the highest ranked conference champ in the group of 5.
That's right.
So that's going to take down a few slots.
Yep.
So, like I said, if you're Ole Miss and you're 3rd, I mean, you're on the bubble.
Yeah.
If you're 4th, I think you're out.
Yeah. Which is crazy because we've seen SEC teams ranked like 9th at the end of the year, with 2 losses and, 8th, 9th, something like that. But I happen to think you're exactly right. Certainly not both of them getting 4, maybe 1. But I have a feeling this first year they're going to be very aware of that and they're going to make their decision based on not loading it. They caught a whole lot of flack last year for being worried about the SEC not being in. I happen to think, even as an Alabama fan, that Florida State got hosed in that deal. But I think they made a business decision based on not having the SEC in the thing.
Well, they're very cognizant of the money.
Sure.
And I think Dave sent me a email earlier saying, what do you think about them expanding it?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be about money. Yeah. How much more money can we make if we expand this?
Yeah. I mean, look, Mike Leach 5 years ago was talking about, he's like, you could do this with 64 in football if you wanted to, and he laid it out. I mean, you have to think it's going that way.
Well, a friend of Birmingham, he actually came up with a way to get every FBS team.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you have to play till March.
Right.
So nobody wants that.
No.
And, I mean, the biggest playoff argument against it 20 years ago where, the kids will miss too much classroom time.
Ugh.
No, they won't. I mean, I travel with Troy every week one year.
Yep.
We didn't leave till after Friday's class. They didn't lose anything. The only time they lost was a Thursday night game at North Texas on ESPN.
Yeah.
And so we left after their Wednesday class. So they missed Thursday. Then on the way back, Coach Blakeney got on the intercom on the airplane on the way back and said, we're checking 8 o'clock classes. You're not missing.
Yeah.
Now, you look at, compare that to basketball.
Yeah.
You're playing Thursday and Saturday usually.
Yep.
Or women Friday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're leaving a day before.
That's right.
So that's 2 days of classes, and you're doing that how many times?
Yeah.
I mean, football teams are doing it 6 times a season.
Yeah. Baseball's bad, too.
Oh, baseball, golly. I mean, High Point, like I said, came down to Oxford for a 3-game set. Harvard was at Troy last week for a 4-game set. Why? Because they're on spring break. They can do it.
Yeah.
But if it was during the academic year, no, they're not coming down here.
I want to ask you a question here. It was an interesting one Dave posed on the list here, and it's kind of an interesting one. I'm going to ask it actually both ways. Say, what's one moment from sports history you really wish Twitter was around for? And then I'm going to ask the reverse of that. What's one moment you're glad Twitter was not around for?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I'll take the second part if you want to just hit the one you wish Twitter would have been around for.
I have 2 I wish had been around for.
Okay.
Now, one of them I don't think would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been the race to beat Ruth's record in 61 with Mandel and Maris.
Yeah.
But they just did not like the media. So I'm not sure if they would have tweeted or not.
Right.
But the other one, I would have loved to hear after the game and before the next game from McGuire and Sosa in 98.
Yeah. Yeah.
How you feeling? How was BP? Or this guy, he got me on a changeup and I was looking fastball.
Yeah.
That would have been a good one. Now, something I'm glad I wasn't there for. I'm glad Ali never had it.
He would have owned Twitter.
He would have been on it more than Trump ever thought about being on it. He'd have been on it more than, everybody's favorite blonde at the Kansas City Chiefs games.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ali would have tweeted between rounds.
I'm going to take a slightly different tack. I'm glad Twitter was not around for the Miracle on Ice. A lot of people forget that was a taped game when it played, and obviously word couldn't spread. I love the fact that so many people watched that game, even though it was 6-8 hours later, and had no idea what was to come. They got to enjoy that game for what it was. I mean, word trickled, but yeah.
It was a Friday night,
mm-hmm.
and it was in February. So me and my friend T.J. Rollins, we were walking out of class. I was like, hey, man, you want to go to a movie or not or something? And he goes, no, man, no. Hockey game's on.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. But I said, I think they already played.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, but I don't know what happened.
Exactly.
And so we ended up sitting there watching the game, and, when Eruzione hit that last goal,
yeah,
I mean, we thought it was live.
Yeah. That's so cool, too. The longest 10 minutes in sports after that goal, too.
600 seconds.
And Al Michaels, one of the greatest calls ever.
Absolutely.
Do you believe miracles?
Absolutely. We're going to have to leave it on that. Steve Barnes, rebelwalk.com. As always, enjoyed talking with you, and we will talk to you next week.
Hopefully it's not about hockey.
There we go. All right. That's Steve
man.
Barnes. All right. Appreciate you, buddy. There you go. Thank you very much. All right, guys. Well, coming up next is going to be the PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Todd will not be here. I'm going to handle that myself, but we're going to talk about buy, sell, hold. We're going to talk about sports cards. We're going to talk about everything like that. Would love to hear from you and your questions. You can text them or call us with those questions at 215-6290. That's coming up next. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida, your home for Mike Greenberg.
Doc made a fascinating decision. Many people in his position would have done the same, but it did invite an enormous amount of scrutiny. Now he goes there, and they have immediately looked awful since he got there. Now, how much of that is his fault? I don't know. But at the end of the day, if this thing doesn't get much better, I don't think Giannis gets the blame. Maybe Dame gets some of the blame, but I think it's going to fall on Doc.
Greeny. Weekdays on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Monday's weather. Tonight there will be a gentle breeze out of the south, partly cloudy skies and 62. Some sun tomorrow morning, about the same at 69. In the afternoon and evening, sunny and a moderate breeze right around 14 miles per hour with a high of 69. About the same at 70 Wednesday, and we'll have mostly clouds. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
There's nothing more satisfying than helping you find the perfect vehicle. And this month, find something you love at just 2.99% APR on our most popular models. Plus 90 days until you make your first payment. Like the 2024 Camry with stylish good looks and impressive performance. Or the 2024 Corolla, built for comfort and style with top-notch tech. Panama City Toyota. For over 30 years, where relationships are born.
Offer expires March 4th. For details, visit PanamaCityToyota.com.
Sports fans, we love our teams, but let's talk real estate for a moment. Meet Berg Title, your trusted local real estate title and escrow company. Based in downtown Panama City, Berg Title knows the community inside out. They handle everything from title searches to escrow services with expertise. Honest, reliable, and here to make your real estate journey smooth. Remember, it's Berg Title. Call them at 850-250-2900. That's Berg Title, your partner for a worry-free real estate experience in Panama City and Panama City Beach.
Hometown sports talk from hometown hosts.
People are loving it.
We're live and local. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
Are you kidding me?
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Man, nothing but a good time indeed here Monday afternoon. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes, who's off playing basketball coach this evening. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs. And ladies and gentlemen, the Bay High Sailing Team has a fundraiser coming up. Please join us on Monday, March 4th from 5:30 to 9 p.m. for a throwback to Los Antojitos at Ferrucci Restaurante. This will be a lot of fun, and all the benefits will go to the Bay High Sailing Team. The Bay Youth Sailing Association is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, so make sure and set your calendars for Monday, March 4th at Ferrucci Restaurante. Well, normally on Mondays, this would be where I welcome the captain in, a PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Todd and Bill are busy with something at the shop right now, so I'm going to handle this today. But we would love to take your calls on anything related to sports cards, memorabilia. I could fake it through coins and TCGs and all of that, but I would love to take those. Again, if you want to give us a call, 215-6290. Let me recap a couple of things that we pitched last week. Topps Hobby Rip Night was this past weekend at the shop, and we had a ton of people come through the shop, ton of people join them on Whatnot, and had a lot of great products ripped, a lot of big cards. There was a Corbin Carroll autograph out of 5, so there's only 5 of them in the world for the Rookie of the Year that was brought out. Very big card. A lot of the new Top Series 1 Ellie De La Cruz cards and things like that. So it was a ton of fun, great event, a lot of giveaways. There were some bounties out for pulling certain cards, so that was a lot of fun. Also, coming up, Super Saturday is always the second Saturday of each month. That's going to be March the 9th. So that's going to be a great event there at PCB Hobby out on Back Beach Road. There is a new TCG game coming up, James. And, of course, trading card game, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, all of these. I don't know much about those. I do know something about this one that's coming out. Star Wars Unlimited.
Ooh, so I can have Yoda fighting.
There you go. Coming out here very beginning of March. Going to have more info on that as we get into next Monday as well. But
does it cover the whole universe of Star Wars from
It
like
does.
the first one to what Disney released last week?
It does, and it actually it's going. They've already built out essentially 9 releases of this product, so we're talking multiple years. They're in this for the long haul, so it's going to be exactly what you said. It's going to cover the entire universe of Star Wars, which is ever growing and occasionally contracting when Disney takes over and retcons a few things, but. It's going to be an absolute blast. I'm actually reading up on it right now because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm trying to learn the trading card game aspect of this because I was a little older than when Pokemon came out or when Magic the Gathering came out in the mid to late 90s, and I missed out on that. So I'm very excited for this, and PCB Hobby is going to be one of the pre-release locations across the country for Star Wars Unlimited. So look for more information on that. It is going to be an absolutely awesome product. So, well, let's move into what we do. We've started doing this more each Monday, and it's basically buy, sell, or hold, where we give a couple of different names, and we kind of talk about, is now the time to buy cards on this player? Is now the time to sell? Or would holding be the right play? So I'm going to get this started with a couple that were sent in to David before the show. So let's start with basketball. Victor Wembanyama.
See, I'm always on the theory of rookie cards, when they are first rookie cards, usually pretty hot. I would assume you probably want to sell them then while the iron is still kind of red.
Yep. Victor is an interesting question because he doesn't have a lot of cards out yet. So the ones that are out are very expensive. The interesting thing about Victor, though, is he is the most hyped basketball rookie since LeBron.
Absolutely.
And what we're not seeing, which we see a lot of times when a player gets hyped to the moon, which there's always one or two every year in every sport. It's just the nature of the business. The product has to be hyped, right? You usually will see the first week they're selling incredibly high, and then they start to pull back a little bit. And then if they go do a Patrick Mahomes and go do 3 Super Bowls, you'll really see it start to, go long from there. With Victor, we're not really seeing the contraction. And I think that's because not only is he a phenomenal player, now the team's not very good right now, but you can see what the Spurs are doing. They want to be good again in a couple of years, and Victor will be the centerpiece of that. But what you also have is because Victor has gobbled up so much of the oxygen in the discussion, the rest of the rookie class, nobody's really jumped out and played huge. Brandon Miller's having a good season, but he's not jumped out and been a megastar. When you had LeBron, at least you had Carmelo Anthony, you had a couple other big names. You're not seeing that. So the Victor play, whereas normally I would say I would sell him immediately, it's a tougher call. I would probably still sell Victor now and pick him back up in the offseason, but it's a tougher call than usual because his stuff is holding its value. And we're starting to see a few more products come out. You're starting to see a few more. So it'll be interesting. But I would probably sell Victor, but look to rebuy it in the offseason.
Is that because, one, he came from France and there's no high school, college, any kind of memorabilia for us to run out there and grab up?
That's part of it. I think it's just the fact that he's such a unicorn in his skill set at his size. Is what has made him so big. Now, that being said, we've dealt with a couple of years where we've had deep rookie classes, but no mega stars, which you usually get in basketball. Last year's class was Paulo Banchero and Chet Holmgren and guys like that. Good players. No big names stand out. No Luka, no LeBron, no Anthony Davis, no KD. You didn't have that. The year before was even more diluted. Good players, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, guys like that, Josh Giddey, no superstar. So I think the hobby itself needed a superstar to push, and they just happened to find it in a guy who's 7'5" and has range. And look, he's going to play with Coach Popovich. Like, all of this played out beautifully.
And it's such that unknown commodity. People always love to find that unknown commodity. And, well, when you start playing basketball in France, not exactly the basketball mecca of the world, and you're also outside of the purveying eye of all of the U.S. media until, somebody on ESPN or something picks it up, and then, they fly a crew out there to go find them. So I think that is a big thing because everybody loves that, ooh, look.
Yeah. So I would sell Victor, but it's not as easy a decision as it usually would be for a case like this. Over to football, had a couple sent in for us. Puka Nacua had just a lights-out rookie year. From a hobby perspective, he didn't have a lot of cards early because not a lot of people expected him to be a star player. So a lot of his stuff flew under the radar. There wasn't as much of it. So when he started tearing it up, his stuff went to the moon. It has already contracted back to the point at the end of the season I would be buying Puka Nacua because I don't think it was a flash-in-the-pan situation. I think he is that good. I think the Rams are a solid team, went to the playoffs this year. They're going to have to struggle maybe to keep Aaron Donald, but most of their offense is coming back. I like Puka Nacua. I'd be buying him right now.
So just in terms of how the business operates, so when the season ends, so the NFL season is now over.
Correct.
So from this time period to, let's say, September, when the season kicks back up again, do card values just kind of decline? Do they stay kind of level? Because we're not seeing the dudes on TV every week. We're not getting new stats to point at. We're just, waiting to see what they do in minicamp.
So the answer is yes and no. And here's what I mean. Generally speaking, singles prices in the offseason will be lower than they will be during the season. And that makes perfect sense because it's interest. You have more interest when the games are going on than you do in the offseason. Now, that being said, there are products from 2023 that still have not come out yet. It's just a factor of the industry. Number one, they're going to want products coming out all year. It's kind of like they have a new golf driver every 3 weeks. It's kind of the same thing. You want products constantly coming out. There is still some layover from COVID and delays. My point being, there's probably 8 more football products to come out that will feature the 2023 rookie class. So while overall prices will be depressed a little bit in the offseason, you're going to get brand new products of these players. And so there will be short-term spikes on them as the new product hits and people want to get the new flashy Anthony Richardson or the new flashy C.J. Stroud or whatever when it comes out in Optic or Select or National Treasures or Flawless or products like that.
Can't put out a Super Bowl picture till the Super Bowl happens, right?
That's true, too. Let's stay with football. Interesting one on the next one. Anthony Richardson, buy, sell, or hold. With Richardson, it's a tough one. He came out, a lot of fanfare, was exceeding expectations. He is the top player who has autographs live in Panini products. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis were all exclusive to Fanatics. So they don't have a lot of autographs in cards the way Anthony Richardson does. Richardson came out, was exceeding expectations, and then got hurt. Now, his stuff dropped back down. What's interesting about that is I actually think the hype will return for Richardson coming into next year because he showed he could play at a high level, and we didn't get to see the last half of his rookie year where he may have suffered or slumped a little bit like we saw with Bryce Young and guys like that who maybe some people were more down on. What we saw of Anthony Richardson was his high moments. So I actually think that the interest level will pick back up for Richardson going into the season next year. I'd be buying Richardson now and holding until the hype leading into the season. So.
I got to say, but how many injuries, I can see that decimating, especially if somebody comes in and, gets a total, tib-fib fracture. And
correct.
You're not going to see them play again. I can see that either as one, tanking the card if it's somebody that, is just a highlight, like, oh, yeah, he played 3 games versus, if it's a Michael Jordan or something. I could see it almost spiking the values because, oh, look, we're not going to have anymore.
I think Richardson's a unique situation, like I said, because what we saw of him was great, and I think the hype will be there. Normally, the hype would be purely on the new rookie class. However, I think Fanatics is going to gobble up all the top quarterbacks again. And so I think there is going to be some hype on Richardson going back in because what we saw of him was excellent. And the Colts are in a not very good division, let's face it.
Anybody can win that division.
That's 100% true. That's right. And then we got one in for baseball. and it's one maybe a lot of our listeners have not heard of. It's Spencer Jones. Spencer Jones is a prospect in the Yankees organization. Spencer Jones is an interesting one. He was one of the top prospects in last year's Bowman, which are the prospects. The problem with Spencer Jones is I'd probably buy a prospect you expect to get up to the majors within the next year, because they get a huge bump when they get called to the majors. Like, you always talk about the guys, like, when do their card prices go after they win the Super Bowl, they retire, they go into the Hall of Fame, they die. Like, those were the things, in football. In baseball, similar kind of thing. But there's a huge spike when these prospects get called up to the bigs. The problem Spencer Jones may face is when the Yankees are planning on calling him up. Jason Dominguez looked like a surefire call up going into the season last year. They waited until August or September, I think, to call him up. So Spencer Jones might be a good buy right now, but you're going to need to hold on him for a while, I think, until you get the inclination. Now, if the Yankees come out tomorrow and say they're going to promote him, great. But you may have to, it's a good buy, but you may have to go longer on a guy like Spencer Jones, whereas there were signs they were going to pull Volpe up, so he was an easier player to figure out.
So let's keep talking minor league baseball here.
Sure.
So, minor league baseballs, even Major League Baseball does this, where you get one of the giveaways for a game is a team pack, where it's got all the players in it, and it's usually sponsored by, like, Bob's Dental or something like that.
Right.
And I have a whole bunch of players from the Bowling Green Hot Rods when I was working for them that have made the bigs. Any kind of value to those things at all that were, because they're not Topps or Bowman or anything. It's just, the local print shop.
There's value in collecting them if you like the player. But let's say financial, long-term, make money value, right? For typically when guys are in the minors, you can short flip these cards because they don't have a lot out. They'll have a Bowman card, but they don't have anything Topps because they're not rookies. They're not in the bigs yet, right? The only thing they may have is what's called Topps Pro Debut, which is a minor league set. So will the local card that they give you at the stadium ever be a big money card? No, probably not. Now, that being said, in the short term, when they don't have a lot of cards out, collectors who are into Jackson Churio for Biloxi or something like that, yeah, they're going to trade those at a much higher value. And your big time, what they call super collectors who want every card of a player ever made, then they're going to want one of these, Rancho Cucamonga Mud Hens cards or whatever, the Rocket City Trash Pandas, all of these great minor league names. They're going to want some of those. So will they be big money cards? No. In the short term, there is some money to be made while they don't have a lot of cards out there. Because once they get to the bigs, everything's going to be about their Topps branded material.
I love those cards.
Yeah. So anyway, that was our PCB Hobby Takeover with Brian today. I'm going to say it was. Again, make sure you get out to PCB Hobby there, 11939 Back Beach Road, right next to Florida Linen there on Back Beach. Now, the shop is now open 7 days a week. Sundays are open 12 to 6. Been very busy. You definitely want to get out there and check out all of the new products. Again, coins, sports cards, TCGs, comic books. It is the place to do your hobby. When we get back, we're going to have Kyle Wright call in. We're going to talk a little wrestling on the program. Elimination Chamber this past weekend. What went down? We'll tell you next. Afternoon Underdogs, ESPN, Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Dan Patrick Show. Dan Patrick. She's a great player, and I wonder, Caitlin Clark is 22. So 8-9 years ago, she's 13 years of age. She's already said that, Steph Curry had a huge influence on her. Because we think they're bad shots, but they're not bad shots for her.
It's the Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings from 9 till 11. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Monday's weather. Tonight there will be a gentle breeze out of the south, partly cloudy skies and 62. Some sun tomorrow morning, about the same at 69. In the afternoon and evening, sunny and a moderate breeze right around 14 miles per hour with a high of 69. About the same at 70 Wednesday, and we'll have mostly clouds. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
With over 65 years of combined experience, Instant Replay Sports Cards is happy to help you take your collection to the next level. They carry all the new hobby boxes, signed memorabilia, and supplies. New and vintage cards and Pokemon. They sell and trade cards and are always looking to buy. They're an authorized source for Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, and Leaf cards. Instant Replay Sports Cards is open 7 days a week at 752 West 23rd Street, down from Academy Sports. It can always be reached at instantReplaySportsCards.com.
Hey there, business owners. Do you feel lost in a sea of numbers, struggling to navigate your day-to-day accounting? At Lighthouse CPAs, they specialize in guiding businesses to make more money and keep more of what you make. From bookkeeping to tax planning, they've got you covered. Plus, with their user-friendly software, managing your finances has never been easier. Spend less time on paperwork and more time growing your business. Call Lighthouse CPAs 850-785-5254.
When the sun sets on the Emerald Coast, the freaks come out and play.
Hi, I'm a recovering crackhead.
Hand me that shotgun.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Get on your knees!
ESPN Northwest Florida.
And Brian Haddad back at you with the Afternoon Underdogs here, taking the last segment here. David will be back tomorrow running the show. I wanted to get this in before we get into talking some wrestling with Kyle Wright here. The junior college Division I baseball, or the junior college baseball poll is out. First poll of the year, and Gulf Coast State College sitting at number 1. So good deal there for the Commodores. 16-1 on the year. Got all 8 first-place votes. Gulf Coast sitting at number 1. That's pretty cool. Well, let's bring him on here to talk about all things inside the squared circle. Kyle Wright, the only man in this town who I think is as big a wrestling fan as me. Kyle, how we doing today?
Man, I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Doing great, buddy. Doing great. Good to hear your voice here. Definitely want to get your thoughts on the Elimination Chamber again. Coming from, excuse me, Perth, Australia, down under. Made for an interesting premium live event in that it went off at 4 a.m. our time. Were you awake to watch it this year?
Yeah, so I kind of did myself a favor, and I had set a 6 a.m. alarm. I woke up to watch. I woke up as Randy Orton was making his entrance for the men's chamber, and then caught the Rhea Ripley Nia Jax match. Then I ended up going back and watching the rest immediately after. That's tough. Let's be honest. That's tough.
Well, I wish I could say I missed the whole thing. I didn't. I've always been an early riser. I actually happened to wake up like 10 after 4, and I went, I think it's on. And I ended up catching basically the intros to the women's. I caught the whole thing. So it was something else. Let's talk in general. I mean, basics. Becky Lynch winning the women's elimination chamber. Drew McIntyre taking the men's. We had the Judgment Day retaining the men's tag belts. We did have a Grayson Waller effect segment with Cody and Seth. And Rhea Ripley did retain her title over Nia Jax. And obviously, Rhea being Australian, that was going to be the centerpiece. A lot of the, I wouldn't say criticisms per se, but, you know, there was a lot of people who thought the event was too predictable. Did it almost have to be in order to set up WrestleMania?
You know, when you were on the phone with Steve earlier, you guys brought up the question about Twitter. Like, what are you happy that Twitter wasn't around for? And I would say the Attitude Era.
Yes.
You know, because, I just wish Twitter wasn't around now. Because it's just nothing but predictability. Like, absolutely, yes, the results were predictable, but that's because you guys are out here digging for information all the time. And that's, you know, that's what social media in general has done to us. So just to kind of throw it back to your segment there, that's that. I'm okay with the results. The only thing I didn't love, Brian, I'm not a big Drew McIntyre fan.
Yeah.
I don't know why. He's got the look, he's got the charisma, he's got the skill set. He's very good in the ring. I just don't think that he provides main event excitement for that World Heavyweight Championship. Now, obviously, CM Punk's injury, that threw a big stick in the tire, man. That maybe it was going to be a triple threat because he had his little thing going with Drew before the Rumble. I don't know. But not having a big name like that, man, the legitimacy of the World Heavyweight title has just been taking a hit.
Yeah. No, I think that's right, and that's good. I was trying to figure out what they could do. I did enjoy the notion. Of course, look, we're dealing in the make-believe world of pro wrestling here, and at least in terms of it being scripted. But I love the thought that L.A. Knight, who, huge fan favorite, was in the Elimination Chamber, that AJ Styles would fly all of the way to Australia just to beat up L.A. Knight. I mean, you have to suspend disbelief in wrestling, but it was just, but it sets up a program for those two for WrestleMania going forward, which is good because we left L.A. Knight out last year, and it was criminal. We absolutely have to have him on the card. Yeah, absolutely, and truthfully, man, I think that would have been my pick to win because I don't know if he has the star power necessarily, but I think it would have got the fans excited for somebody wearing that belt or somebody competing for that belt. So I think a program with him and AJ Styles will be fun. I don't think I wanted it at Mania. I think that would have been a great spot to ride the LA Knight train while it was hot, and I guess they just don't see it, man. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. My favorite thing to come from the chamber, though, truthfully, man, I'm excited for this Logan Paul, Randy Orton story. Growing up, you had Vine, never thought I'd be a Logan Paul fan. But as far as celebrities getting into the wrestling industry, I can't tell you that I've ever seen somebody so naturally gifted in this world. He's taken to it more natural than guys who just are getting into wrestling. Like, he just has the sense of where the camera is, what to do when, how to position himself. That's stuff that's just talent. I mean, it's freaky how good he is at this with how little he's done it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Over on the women's side, as much as I thought it would be Becky, because I think they're setting up something different for Bianca Belair, a lot of the talk, and I think rightfully so, was Tiffany Stratton new up onto the card, or new up into the bigs from NXT. She really showed out. I mean, I think a lot of the hopes they have for Jade Cargill are kind of showing in what Tiffany Stratton's done over the last year. And, she really stepped up to the plate big time in this Elimination Chamber. I think one thing you're going to see in the Triple H era is, like, we had the whole build of the four horsewomen in NXT because of Triple H, right? Like, there's a reason that all these women were so popular when they got to the main roster and beyond now with Mercedes Moné, with Sasha Banks being probably the highest touted free agent in wrestling right now. Right. But with that being said, now that Vince McMahon's out of the picture, I expect these women to get more of a, they're getting matches on the card, but they're not getting chances to shine. And I think that's going to happen. And people like Tiffany Stratton, man, the swanton she delivered off the top of the chamber was just picture perfect. Yeah. And I'm super excited for her. I love Becky Lynch winning, by the way. Yeah. I know a lot of people didn't love it, man, but I don't know, as a wrestling fan, when it's very rare that you get two huge superstars that have not crossed paths at any point in their careers. And when you can get that at WrestleMania, especially with two that are on top of the world like Becky and Rhea right now, I don't know, as a wrestling fan, how you can't be excited for that. I think you had to do it because Rhea Ripley is the biggest female superstar there is right now. And last year, on one of the best nights of WrestleMania I've ever seen, I think Rhea and Charlotte stole the show. And obviously with Charlotte out injured, you've got Bayley over on the other side. Sasha's not in the WWE right now. You need a star to go opposite Rhea Ripley to have any level of believability that Rhea's in danger. And Becky may be, Jade's not ready yet, Nia, nobody thought would beat her, but at least could hold her own. That match was better than it should have been. And let's face it, most of the other girls, like Liv Morgan's as big as one of Rhea Ripley's legs. I mean, it's not anything. So I think you had to go with Becky.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone's wanting. Everyone wants Liv Morgan, and I do like Liv Morgan. I just don't, like you said, I know kayfabe's dead in 2024, but there has to be some level of believability to this, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the big one. You and I haven't really talked about this much, but obviously we had the whole thing where Cody came out, basically gave the spot to The Rock, fan uproar. Cody comes back, takes the spot back, Rock goes heel. I mean, let's assume that this was purely a reaction to the fans, which it probably was. I'm not 100% sure, but let's say it was. They have played this masterfully from what could have been a PR disaster. What are your thoughts on the way this is all played out, and what do you think maybe going into WrestleMania?
If it ends the way that I think it's going to end, man, this is beautiful. Because the way I think it's going to end is with The Rock helping Cody win the title. And that, like when Cody whispered in Rock's ear, when they did their whole thing, when he handed him the spot, that they're going to, like, let's say that this was all planned between those two, and then the Rock and Roman main event SummerSlam down the road. Yeah. I feel like that's a bit of injustice to Rock and Roman.
Yeah.
But that would also be insinuating that this has been planned the whole time. But I'm with you. I think that this was reactionary. Because of the fan uproar, and I was among those people. I'm a big Rock fan, but if Rock comes out and wins the Rumble, nobody cares. Yeah. Which is what everybody kind of thought was going to happen. There would have been some uproar from him taking that spot, but not like there was here.
Yeah.
So I think there was a big time reaction, but again, CM Punk's injury, man, because I think if it's Cody, Seth, and Punk, that match sells. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
But I just don't. I don't know, man. The Punk injury, and that's I don't talk bad about Triple H and WWE very often, but that's a reflection of them. You don't put all your eggs into one basket like that, especially with somebody who just got back in the company.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting.
I'm excited, man.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly exciting. I mean, The Rock, I didn't think he would want to play a heel. He still can do it. I mean, he did it wonderfully. I agree with you, though. He's going to turn back. He doesn't want to be long-term heel. Nobody who's in Hollywood wants to do that, so I think he will. Let me throw this one out at you.
Go ahead.
Here's what I think is going to happen with Drew. I think Drew and Seth take it, and I think Drew's about to beat Seth. Punk's music hits. Punk walks out. Stands up at the Titantron. Everybody loses their mind. Drew's distracted. Seth rolls Drew up. Keeps the title. Drew loses his mind. His moment's been taken away again. Beats Seth to a bloody pulp. Here comes Damian Priest to cash in because Priest is going to have to do something here. Otherwise, we have wasted a year of this guy's career. I think that's the only way to do this. Seth can get a little time off to heal up the knee. And that would be my play for this. What do you think?
Yeah, you know what? To add to that, let's throw a little Cody didn't come out to help Seth like Seth's been helping Cody.
Yeah.
So maybe Seth comes back and that you get your Seth and Cody feud down the road.
Well, we may. Monty and the Pharaoh, the guys we talked to a lot of times here on Monday, they seem to think that Seth's going to turn on Cody, and that could be really, really interesting. So
I think so, too. As long as Seth gets a W in there, you can't keep losing to Cody.
There you go. Well, Kyle, I always love talking wrestling with you. We'll have to get you back in the studio with us again soon, buddy.
Yeah, back to wrestling terminology. I hated having to join you via satellite, but this was still fun.
All right, buddy. That's Kyle Wright. Thanks again for joining us, man. Well, guys, that's going to do it for us today on the Afternoon Underdogs. Coach James Hale will be live tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Ryan's got the Inside Drive at 11, and Big Bad Dave will be here again at 4 tomorrow. James, thank you very much. We will see everybody tomorrow.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Colin Cowherd. Caitlin Clark, Iowa star, broke the NCAA women's hoop scoring record. She's the biggest star in college basketball, men's and women's. TV ratings, they just beat a Miami-Boston